The USS Defiant drifted silently through the debris field that was once Earth's orbital defense network. Bits of metal and broken satellites floated past the viewport. Commander Benjamin Wright stared at the tactical display, his weathered face lit up by the harsh blue light. Everyone on the bridge was quiet. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Earth burned below them. Smoke clouds covered most of North America and parts of Europe. The alien ships, massive and shaped like arrowheads, hung in low orbit, their weapons still glowing hot from the attack. "Damage report," Wright ordered, keeping his voice steady despite everything that had happened. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez looked up from her console. Dark circles under her eyes showed how little she had slept during the 3 days of nonstop fighting. Her uniform was dirty and torn at the sleeve. "Hull integrity at 42%, sir. Weapon systems working, but we're low on ammo. Life support is stable," she said. Wright nodded and turned to the communications officer. "Any word from other Earth ships?" The young officer shook his head. "Nothing, sir. We appear to be the last one. The last warship humanity had left, or so the Arcturian Dominion believed." Wright allowed himself a small smile. The attack had come without warning 6 days ago. The Arcturians, tall beings with translucent skin that showed their bones and organs beneath, had appeared at the edge of the solar system with over 300 ships. They moved past the outer planets quickly, ignoring the small human outposts. Their message was simple. Earth had expanded too far into space. The colony on Proxima Centauri was too close to Arcturian territory. Humans were to leave that star system immediately, or face destruction. President Alicia Washington had tried to negotiate. She had offered to discuss borders, to find a peaceful solution. The Arcturians had responded by destroying the moon base with a single shot. 15,000 people died in seconds. The battle for Earth had been short and brutal. The alien ships had better weapons, stronger shields, and faster engines. Earth's space fleet fought bravely but was quickly destroyed. Now, as far as the aliens knew, only the Defiant remained. Wright walked to the viewport and looked down at his burning homeworld. Cities where millions had lived were now smoking ruins. The aliens had targeted military bases first, then moved on to major population centers. "Sir," Martinez said, interrupting his thoughts. "The alien flagship is changing course. They're heading toward us." Wright nodded, just as we predicted. He turned to face his crew. 20 men and women looked back at him. Many had lost family on Earth. All were ready to do whatever was needed. "You all know what happens next," Wright said. "The Arcturians think we're beaten. They think this ship is a last desperate stand, the final dying gasp of humanity's resistance." He walked to the center of the bridge, his steps firm and confident. "Let them think that. Let them believe we're broken." His voice grew stronger, because when you think your enemy is defeated, you get sloppy. You make mistakes, you don't look for traps. The tactical officer spoke up. "Sir, they're scanning us." "Let them," Wright replied. "They'll see exactly what we want them to see. A damaged ship with failing systems and a skeleton crew." He sat back in his command chair. "Lieutenant Martinez, prepare to send the signal when I give the order." "Yes, sir. Signal ready." The massive alien flagship grew larger on their view screen. It was at least 20 times the size of the Defiant, shaped like a curved blade with weapons ports all along its hull. Smaller ships flanked it, their formation tight and disciplined. "They're hailing us, Commander," the communications officer said. "On screen," Wright ordered. The alien commander appeared on the main view screen. General Krall was tall, even for an Arcturian. His translucent skin glowed with blue and green patterns, a sign of victory in their culture. His large, pupil-less eyes stared at Wright with what seemed like curiosity. "Your resistance has been admirable, human, but pointless," Krall said through his translation device. "Your civilization is finished. Surrender your vessel now and your crew will live." Wright made himself look tired and defeated. "It wasn't hard. After 6 days of battle. Our engines are damaged beyond repair, General. We can't come to you even if we wanted to." He paused, then added, "But I am allowed to discuss surrender terms." The alien's skin patterns shifted to yellow, a sign of suspicion. You have nothing to negotiate with, Commander. Your planet is conquered. Your forces destroyed. Perhaps, Wright said carefully. But surely you've noticed that we've had no communication with our colonies in the outer system. Don't you wonder why? This was the delicate part of the plan. Feed them just enough information to seem cooperative while planting seeds of doubt. Your pitiful outposts on Mars and the moons of Jupiter? They are of no concern. Krall dismissed. Then you haven't found our Saturn bases yet, Wright said, making it sound like a slip of the tongue. He quickly added, I shouldn't have said that. The alien skin flashed red briefly. Interest, concern. You will tell us everything about these bases, Krall demanded. Wright pretended to struggle with his decision. If I give you this information, you'll spare my crew? Yes, the alien agreed quickly. Too quickly. Over the next hour, Wright fed the Arcturian commander carefully crafted misinformation. He described fictional defense platforms around Saturn, non-existent weapon caches on Titan, and made-up shield technology that could only work in the outer system's cold environment. All the while, Krall grew more interested, his skin patterns shifting between red and yellow. I will send a boarding party to verify this information, the alien finally said. Prepare to receive them. The communication ended, and Wright immediately straightened in his chair. They took the bait. Martinez, send the signal now. The lieutenant pressed a sequence on her console. A tight beam transmission shot out from a hidden antenna on the Defiant's hull, aimed at the dark side of the moon. To alien sensors, it would appear as nothing more than a power fluctuation. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a base the aliens thought they had destroyed, Dr. Samantha Green received the encrypted message. She turned to her colleague with grim determination. It's happening, Frank. Right on schedule. Dr. Frank Rodriguez nodded and pressed his palm against a scanner. Massive hidden doors began to open in the lunar soil, revealing row after row of ships that officially didn't exist. Operation Trojan is go, he said into his comm unit. All ships prepare for launch on my mark. Back on the Defiant, Commander Wright watched as the alien boarding craft approached. His ship truly was the last one left in Earth's vicinity, but not for the reason the Arcturians believed. The trap was set, and humanity's real fight was about to begin. 6 months before the invasion, Dr. Frank Rodriguez sat alone in his small office at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station. The room was dark, except for the glow of his computer screens. Empty coffee cups littered his desk. He hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours. Something was wrong with the data coming from the edge of the solar system. Frank rubbed his tired eyes and looked again at the readings. The Oort cloud, that distant shell of icy objects surrounding the solar system, was showing strange energy patterns. At first he thought it was just equipment failure, but after triple-checking everything, he was certain. Computer, run the simulation again, he said. The screen showed a 3D model of the outer solar system. Tiny dots representing the energy readings appeared moving slowly but deliberately toward Earth. The computer highlighted their pattern, too regular, too organized to be natural. Frank picked up his phone with shaking hands and dialed a number only a handful of people knew. This is Dr. Rodriguez, he said when someone answered. I need to speak with Director Green immediately. Authorization code Lima 6 Delta 9. Within an hour, Dr. Samantha Green arrived at his office. Her face was serious as she looked over the data. You're sure about this? She asked. Frank nodded. I've checked everything. Those aren't natural objects. They're ships, hundreds of them, using the Oort cloud debris as cover. Samantha's expression darkened. They're trying to hide their approach. And doing a good job of it, Frank added. If I hadn't been looking specifically at the energy patterns in that sector, we might not have spotted them until they were much closer. 24 hours later, they stood in the White House Situation Room. President Alicia Washington listened intently as they explained their findings. The Joint Chiefs of Staff sat around the table, faces grim. How long do we have? The president asked when they finished. 6 months at their current speed, Frank replied. Maybe 7 if they continue their stealth approach. And there's no doubt these are alien vessels? Samantha stepped forward. None, Madam President. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database, and there's no natural explanation for their movement patterns. The room fell silent. Earth had made contact with a few alien species in recent decades, but interactions had been limited and mostly peaceful. This was different. This was a fleet. "What are our options?" President Washington finally asked. Admiral Gregory Daniels cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Madam President, we don't have the technology or firepower to stop a fleet that size. Our space defenses were designed to handle small skirmishes, not full-scale invasion. So we surrender. Is that what you're suggesting, Admiral?" Washington's voice was sharp. "No, ma'am. I'm suggesting we need a different approach." Daniels stood and walked to the screen showing the alien fleet's approach. "Direct confrontation would be suicide. But if they don't know our true capabilities—" "You mean deception?" the president said. Daniels nodded. "We make them think they know what we have, while secretly preparing something they won't expect. And so began the largest secret operation in human history, Project Trojan. While the public continued their daily lives, unaware of the coming danger, work began in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The government's cover story, a breakthrough in fusion technology requiring massive resources, explained the sudden increase in space activity. Deep under the lunar surface, in tunnels dug decades ago but never publicly acknowledged, engineers worked around-the-clock building ships unlike anything Earth had officially developed. Advanced weapon systems, based partly on technology from a crashed alien scout ship found years earlier, were installed and tested in absolute secrecy. Asteroid mining operations served as perfect covers for constructing shipyards. What appeared to be simple resource extraction facilities were actually building components for Earth's hidden fleet. Meanwhile, Admiral Daniels hand-picked crews from military services worldwide. They trained in virtual reality environments so realistic that their bodies developed the muscle memory needed for combat, all while believing they were participating in theoretical exercises. The plan was risky, brutal in its calculations. Earth's visible defenses would fight when the aliens arrived, and they would lose. Cities would burn. Millions might die. But if the aliens believed they had won completely, they would lower their guard, and that's when the hidden fleet would strike. 3 months into preparations, Dr. Frank Rodriguez stood with Samantha Green in a lunar observation dome, looking up at Earth glowing blue and white against the blackness of space. "Do you think it will work?" Frank asked quietly. Samantha didn't answer immediately. The weight of their knowledge, that an alien armada was approaching while most of humanity remained unaware, pressed down on both of them. "It has to," she finally said. "The alternative is extinction." Frank looked at his tablet, showing the latest data on the approaching fleet. "They're maintaining formation. No indication they know we've detected them." "That's our one advantage," Samantha said. "They think they're surprising us." The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity. The hidden shipyards worked at full capacity. Training intensified. Weapons were tested and refined in the far reaches of the solar system, away from prying eyes. President Washington made the difficult decision not to warn the public. Mass panic would only alert the aliens that they had been detected. "History will judge me harshly for this," she told her closest advisors. "But I'd rather be condemned by historians than watch humanity be exterminated." 1 week before the aliens arrived, Commander Benjamin Wright was summoned to a secret meeting on the moon. He had been chosen to command the USS Defiant, one of Earth's newest and most powerful ships, on paper. In reality, the Defiant was outfitted with outdated weapons and equipment, deliberately designed to appear threatening but ultimately ineffective against advanced alien technology. Wright's mission was perhaps the most dangerous of all: to serve as bait, to make the aliens believe they were facing Earth's best when in fact they were facing a decoy. "Your ship will appear to be damaged but fighting on," Admiral Daniels explained. "The last defiant stand of humanity. While the real fleet waits in hiding," Wright finished. "Exactly. You need to convince them that they've won completely. Only then will they drop their guard enough for our counterattack to succeed." Wright nodded, understanding what wasn't being said. His ship, his crew, they might not survive to see the counterattack. "We'll do what needs to be done, sir," he said simply. And now, as the aliens approached Earth and the Defiant prepared for its mission, humanity's fate hung in the balance. Everything depended on convincing a technologically superior enemy that their victory was complete, when in fact, the real battle had not yet begun. Commander Wright watched as the alien boarding craft approached the Defiant. 6 Arcturian soldiers in what looked like battle armor stepped onto his ship. Their translucent skin glowed with shifting patterns of blue and green. They towered over the human crew, each one nearly 7 feet tall. "Welcome aboard," Wright said, forcing his voice to sound tired and defeated. The lead alien did not respond. Instead, it scanned the bridge with a small device, its large eyes taking in every detail. "Your ship is damaged beyond repair," it finally said through its translation device. "Your weapons reserves are nearly depleted." Wright nodded. "As I told your general, we fought as long as we could." The alien skin shifted to a yellowish pattern. "Take us to your data center. General Krall wishes to verify your claims about the Saturn bases." Wright led the aliens through the corridors of the Defiant. Crew members pressed themselves against walls as they passed, eyes downcast, playing their parts perfectly. The ship had been carefully prepared for this inspection. Certain systems were offline, panels removed, wires hanging loose, all to support the illusion of a badly damaged vessel. In the data center, Wright entered his command codes with deliberate hesitation, as if reluctant to betray Earth's last secrets. "These are the locations of our outer system bases," he said as schematics appeared on the screen. "The main facility is hidden in Titan's northern hemisphere. We've been developing shield technology that can withstand your plasma weapons." The information was all false, created specifically for this moment. The real human bases were elsewhere, and Earth's true technological capabilities remained hidden. The lead alien studied the data carefully. "This technology appears primitive compared to ours, yet you claim it can resist our weapons." Wright had been well briefed on how to handle this question. "It's not about matching your power," he explained. "It's about adaptation. The extreme cold of Saturn's moons allowed us to develop superconductors that can absorb and redirect energy in ways impossible closer to the sun." The alien's skin flashed with rapid patterns of yellow and red, signs of doubt and interest. "You will come with us to General Krall," the alien decided. "He will want to question you himself." This was exactly what Wright had hoped for. The longer he could keep the Arcturian leadership focused on him and the Defiant, the more time the hidden fleet would have to prepare. "Of course," he agreed. "Lieutenant Martinez will accompany me as my technical advisor." As they prepared to leave the Defiant, Wright gave a subtle nod to his first officer, a prearranged signal. If Wright didn't return within 12 hours, the next phase would begin without him. Meanwhile, deep beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Samantha Green monitored the situation from the command center of Artemis Base. The room was filled with screens showing various parts of the solar system. One display tracked the Defiant and the alien flagship. "Commander Wright is aboard the enemy vessel," a communications officer reported. Samantha nodded. "Right on schedule. What's the status of our fleet?" Frank Rodriguez checked his terminal. "All ships report ready. Launch sequence can begin on your command." "Not yet," Samantha said. "We need to wait for Wright's signal or the 12-hour deadline. Those are our orders." The hidden fleet consisted of 250 ships of various sizes built in secret over the past 6 months. They were scattered throughout the solar system. 40 in the asteroid belt disguised as mining stations, 30 hiding in Venus's thick atmosphere, 60 concealed in Jupiter's strong magnetic field, and the rest positioned in other strategic locations. Each ship was equipped with weapons based partly on technology from the crashed alien scout ship that Earth governments had kept secret for decades. Not as advanced as Arcturian technology, but far more capable than what the aliens believed humans possessed. On the Arcturian flagship, Wright and Martinez were led to a large chamber. General Krall sat on a raised platform, surrounded by what appeared to be senior officers. The room's walls displayed holographic images of Earth, the devastation clearly visible. "Commander Wright," Kral said, his translator making his voice sound almost pleasant. Your cooperation will make things easier for what remains of your species. Wright stood straight, showing neither fear nor defiance. I want assurances that my crew will be spared. Kral's skin pulsed with patterns of blue light. Of course. Now tell me, why did you humans hide your Saturn facilities from our initial scans? Did you truly believe they would remain undetected? Wright had practiced this conversation countless times in simulation. Each answer was carefully crafted to be believable, yet misleading. After your species was detected crossing the outer system boundary years ago, we began preparing. Wright lied smoothly. The Saturn bases were our insurance policy. Small enough to hide, but with enough firepower to cause your fleet problems. Kral leaned forward. And yet you didn't use them during our attack. Why? They're not fully operational, Wright said, the rehearsed explanation ready. Another 6 months and they would have been. Your timing was fortunate. The general studied Wright carefully. You are either very brave or very foolish to admit this. I'm a realist, Wright replied. Earth has fallen. My duty now is to my surviving crew. As the interrogation continued, Lieutenant Martinez carefully observed the alien technology around them. Every detail she could remember would be valuable, if they survived to report back. Hours passed. Wright fed the aliens a steady stream of half-truths and misleading information, all designed to keep them focused on Saturn and away from where the real human fleet was hiding. In a different part of the solar system, the USS Reckoning drifted silently near Saturn's rings. Unlike the decoy Defiant, the Reckoning was truly state-of-the-art, with stealth systems that made it nearly invisible even to advanced Arcturian sensors. Lieutenant Kate Simmons stood at her station on the bridge, watching as a small Arcturian scout ship passed nearby, completely unaware of their presence. They took the bait, Captain Victor Ramirez said quietly. Our sensors show 3 of their destroyer-class vessels moving toward Titan. Wright did his job, Simmons replied. They're looking exactly where we want them to. Ramirez nodded. And nowhere near our actual positions. He checked the time. 8 hours since Wright boarded their flagship, 4 more before we move without his signal. Back on the alien flagship, Wright sensed that General Kral was growing suspicious. The questions were becoming more pointed, the alien skin patterns shifting to colors Wright hadn't seen before. You have given us much information, Kral said, finally. Too much, perhaps. A true commander would be more reluctant. Wright had prepared for this moment too. With respect, General, I've told you what you would have discovered anyway. I've simply spared my crew the pain of watching you tear apart my ship to find it. Kral was silent for a long moment. There is something you are not telling me. Something important. Wright met the alien's gaze steadily. I've told you everything of military value. We shall see. Kral made a gesture, and 2 guards stepped forward. Take them to the examination chamber. We will learn what other secrets humans keep. As Wright and Martinez were led away, the commander knew their time was running out. Soon, the aliens would discover the deception. It was time for the backup plan. As they walked down a corridor, Wright stumbled slightly, bumping into Martinez. In that brief contact, he pressed something into her hand, a small device disguised as a uniform button. Their eyes met briefly. She understood. The signal would have to be sent now, ready or not. Lieutenant Martinez closed her fingers around the small device Commander Wright had passed to her. It looked like a simple uniform button, but she knew what it really was, an emergency transmitter. She had to find a way to activate it without the aliens noticing. The 2 Arcturian guards led them down a long corridor aboard the alien flagship. The walls pulsed with strange light patterns. The air felt too thick and smelled like metal and something sweet that Martinez couldn't identify. What happens in the examination chamber? Wright asked, trying to keep the guard's attention on him. Your mind will be read, one guard answered through its translator. No secrets will remain hidden. Martinez's heart beat faster. If the aliens had technology that could read human minds, the entire plan would fail. She needed to send the signal now. As they turned a corner, she pretended to trip and fall against the wall. In that brief moment, she pressed the center of the button twice. The device warmed slightly in her palm, confirming that the signal had been sent. "On your feet," the guard ordered, pulling her up roughly. Meanwhile, on the USS Reckoning near Saturn, Captain Ramirez was discussing their next move when an alert sounded. "Sir," Lieutenant Simmons called out, "we're receiving the emergency signal from Commander Wright." Ramirez straightened. "Confirmed?" "Yes, sir. Authentication codes match. Then we're out of time." Ramirez turned to his communications officer. "Send the activation order to all ships. Operation Trojan begins now." Throughout the solar system, the hidden human fleet received the signal. Ships powered up engines that had been dormant for days or weeks. Weapons systems came online. Stealth shields dropped. Aboard the USS Defiant, the first officer received the signal as well. Without hesitation, he entered a series of commands into the ship's computer. "All hands. This is Acting Commander Harris. Implement Protocol Phoenix. I repeat, implement Protocol Phoenix." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Some headed for escape pods while others remained at their stations. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing what might be required of them. On the alien flagship, Wright and Martinez were just entering the examination chamber when alarms began blaring. The guards looked at each other, their skin flashing, with patterns of alarm. One of them pressed something on the wall and a screen appeared showing the Defiant. The human ship was glowing in several places, its power core clearly in overload. "It's a trap!" the guard shouted. General Krall's voice came through the ship's communication system. "All ships, pull back from the human vessel immediately," but it was too late. The USS Defiant exploded with tremendous force. The blast took out not only the Arcturian flagship's shields but also 3 nearby support ships. More importantly, it created an electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled the aliens' sophisticated sensor network. In that moment of blindness, humanity made its move. From Jupiter's moons, from Venus's thick cloud cover, from the shadows of Mars, and from asteroid belt hideaways, ships appeared everywhere at once. 250 vessels of varying sizes, all armed with weapons the Arcturians had never seen humans use before. Admiral Daniel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the USS Retribution, hidden until now in Earth's own shadow. "All ships, weapons free," he commanded. "Execute Battle Plan Phoenix." The human fleet struck with perfect coordination. They had spent months preparing for this moment, studying the Arcturian ships from afar, identifying weaknesses. The Arcturians, having believed they faced only mop-up operations against a defeated enemy, had spread their forces throughout the solar system. Now they found themselves fragmented and outmaneuvered. On Earth, in an underground shelter near what used to be Chicago, Patricia Miller huddled with her 2 children and 30 other survivors. For 2 weeks they had hidden from alien patrols, living on stored food and filtered water. "Mom, what's happening?" her 10-year-old son asked, pointing at the ceiling. Strange sounds came from above, the high-pitched whine of alien ships, but different somehow. They were moving fast, scrambling. "I don't know, Danny," she said. But for the first time since the invasion, she felt a spark of hope. Outside, the alien patrol ships were suddenly leaving their positions. They rose quickly into the sky, called back to their main vessels to deal with the unexpected threat. In space, the battle spread across the solar system. The human ships, though fewer in number than the total Arcturian force, had the advantage of surprise and position. Near Mars, a group of 30 human ships surrounded and destroyed an Arcturian cruiser. By Venus, another battle group disabled 2 enemy carriers. The humans fought with a mix of conventional weapons and reverse-engineered alien technology that the Arcturians had never expected them to possess. Aboard the damaged Arcturian flagship, Wright and Martinez found themselves momentarily forgotten as the aliens rushed to respond to the surprise attack. Wright seized the opportunity. "This way," he whispered, leading Martinez down a side corridor. The ship shook as human weapons found their mark. "Where are we going?" Martinez asked. "To find a way off this ship," Wright replied. "But first we need to help things along." He had studied the layout of Arcturian ships as part of his preparation. If his memory was correct, they were near one of the power distribution nodes, After a few wrong turns, they found it. A large room filled with glowing equipment. No guards were present. All available personnel had been called to battle stations. "Cover the door," Wright told Martinez as he examined the alien technology. It was different from what he had trained on, but the basic principles seemed similar. While Martinez kept watch, Wright worked quickly to overload the system. It wasn't difficult. The ship was already damaged from the Defiance explosion, its safety protocols compromised. "Done," he said after a few minutes. "We have maybe 10 minutes before this section loses power. That should create enough confusion for us to find an escape pod." They slipped back into the corridor and made their way toward what they hoped was an escape pod bay. Twice they had to hide from groups of rushing Arcturians. The ship shuddered, repeatedly as it took hits from human weapons. The lights flickered, then dimmed as Wright's sabotage took effect. "There!" Martinez pointed to a doorway marked with symbols they recognized from their training as emergency exits. Inside, they found a row of small craft, Arcturian escape pods. The design was alien, but again, their training had prepared them for this. "Can you fly it?" Martinez asked as they climbed into one. "We're about to find out," Wright replied, studying the controls. Outside the flagship, the battle continued to rage. Admiral Daniels watched from the Retribution as his forces pressed their advantage. "Status report," he demanded. "Venus sector. Secured, Admiral. Mars defense platforms reporting all targets neutralized. Jupiter fleet requesting permission to pursue retreating enemy vessels." Daniels nodded with grim satisfaction. "Permission granted for limited pursuit. Don't let them regroup." His second-in-command approached. "Sir, we're detecting an escape pod launching from the enemy flagship. It's broadcasting on human emergency frequencies." "Right," Daniels said. "Get them aboard immediately." As their stolen escape pod raced away from the dying Arcturian flagship, Wright allowed himself a small smile. The plan had worked. Earth had played dead, drawing the enemy into a trap centuries old in concept but executed with space-age precision. Humanity's bold stand wasn't about having the strongest ships or the best weapons. It was about patience, deception, and knowing when to strike. The battle lasted 3 days. Human and Arcturian ships fought across the entire solar system. The space around Earth was filled with bright flashes as ships exploded. Broken pieces of metal and alien technology floated in orbit, creating a new ring of debris around the planet. By the third day, Admiral Daniels stood on the bridge of the USS Retribution, looking at the tactical display with tired but satisfied eyes. Reports were coming in from all sectors. One by one, the alien ships were being destroyed or forced to retreat. "Saturn sector secured, Admiral," a young officer reported. "Venus defense platforms reporting all targets neutralized. Jupiter fleet has disabled the last enemy destroyer in their area." Commander Helen Morgan approached with a tablet in her hand. She had dark circles under her eyes from 3 days without real sleep, but she stood straight and professional. "Sir, we've captured their command carrier," she said. "Our teams are going through their systems now. Their tactical databases confirm what we suspected. They committed 90% of their total military force to this invasion." Daniels nodded slowly. "Because they believed it would be an easy victory. They thought a primitive species like ours couldn't possibly have the technology or will to stand against them." "It worked, sir," Morgan said. Operation Trojan worked, exactly as planned. Daniels looked at the tactical display again. The blue dots representing human ships now far outnumbered the red dots of the remaining Arcturian vessels. Most of the alien ships were retreating toward the edge of the solar system, trying to escape back to their home territory. "What about Commander Wright and Lieutenant Martinez?" he asked. "Safe aboard the USS Defender near Mars," Morgan reported. "They're being checked by medical, but their initial reports have already been sent. The information they gathered on Arcturian technology will be invaluable." Daniels allowed himself a small smile. "They knew the risks. Tell them they've earned a long rest when this is over." On Earth, Patricia Miller and her children stepped out of their underground shelter for the first time in 2 weeks. The sky above Chicago was clear and blue. No alien ships flew overhead. Instead, human shuttles were landing in open areas, bringing medical supplies and food. A soldier approached them. Ma'am, we have relief stations set up in Grant Park. There's food, water, and medical care available. Patricia looked around at the damaged buildings and streets. Is it over? Have we won? The soldier smiled. Yes, ma'am. The Arcturians are in full retreat. Our fleet has control of the system now. Danny looked up at his mother with wide eyes. But how? Everyone said their ships were too strong. It seems we had a few tricks they didn't know about, the soldier replied, ruffling the boy's hair. 1 week after the battle, President Washington stood before the United Nations General Assembly in the temporary headquarters in Geneva. The New York building had been destroyed in the initial attack. Leaders from around the world had gathered to hear her speak. For generations, she began, we have hidden our true capabilities from the stars. We presented ourselves as divided, technologically, primitive, and militarily weak. Today that masquerade ends. She paused, looking across the assembly. The Arcturian Dominion believed they found a vulnerable world with abundant resources and minimal defenses. Instead, they awakened a sleeping giant. Their surviving leadership has sued for peace, not as conquerors, but as the defeated. In the AIDAR audience, Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Green exchanged glances. Their early detection system had given humanity the precious time needed to prepare its trap. We emerge from this conflict not merely as survivors, the president continued, but as a recognized power among the stars. The galactic community that once dismissed us will now meet humanity as equals. As she spoke, cleanup operations were underway across Earth and throughout the solar system. The price had been high, millions dead in the initial invasion, cities destroyed, environments damaged. Yet compared to what could have happened, it was a miracle. Commander Wright and Lieutenant Martinez sat in a small office at lunar headquarters, finishing their official report. Both wore fresh uniforms with new rank insignia. They had been promoted for their actions. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they hadn't taken the bait? Martinez asked. Wright looked up from his screen. Sometimes. But arrogance has always been the downfall of powerful empires. The Arcturians believed so strongly in their superiority that they couldn't imagine being tricked. Martinez nodded. Still, it was close. If you hadn't passed me that transmitter when you did. But I did, Wright said simply. And you got the signal out. That's what matters. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Daniels met with the Arcturian representative aboard a neutral vessel. The alien skin patterns were subdued, showing what humans had learned to recognize as shame and defeat. Your terms are acceptable, the Arcturian said through its translator. We will withdraw from this system and establish the boundary lines as proposed. Daniels kept his face neutral. And the reparations for Earth? Will be paid as demanded. The alien agreed. But know this, human, you have surprised us once. It will not happen again. Our scientists are already studying the weapons you used against us. As they should, Daniels replied evenly, just as we are studying yours. That's the nature of peace through strength, isn't it? After the meeting, Daniels returned to the Retribution. As his shuttle approached the ship, he looked out at Earth below. Parts of it still showed the scars of battle, smoke rising from damaged cities, dark patches where forests had burned. It would take years, perhaps decades, to heal completely. But humanity had survived its first major interstellar conflict. More than survived, they had won through cunning rather than superior firepower. The truth behind humanity's bold stand was both simple and complex. Humans had always been masters of deception and warfare, from wooden horses in ancient Troy to elaborate D-Day deceptions millennia later. The apparent weakness that had drawn the Arcturians into their trap was carefully cultivated over decades. When the first alien signals were detected 50 years earlier, Earth's leaders had made a crucial decision: to appear weaker than they truly were. While publicly claiming technological limitations, they had secretly pushed forward, preparing for the day when their deception would be tested. As Daniel stepped onto his bridge, an officer handed him a report. The last Arcturian ships had left the solar system. Humanity's space was once again its own. Send word to all commands, Daniels ordered. Operation Trojan is complete, but keep the fleet at full readiness. You think they'll be back, sir? The officer asked. Daniels looked at the stars visible through the view screen. Perhaps not the Arcturians specifically, but we've announced our presence to the galaxy now. Others will come, eventually. He smiled slightly. But next time they'll know better than to underestimate us. The galaxy now knows the truth. When humanity seems to have only one ship left, that's exactly when you should worry the most.